If you're an author, chances are you've got a few side hustles, or maybe writing books is your side hustle. Whether you're traditionally published or an indie author, you know that we all need other streams of income because the business of selling books doesn't really result in a steady paycheck. Some of my side hustles include teaching writing workshops, copywriting, and speaking engagements at schools and libraries. A lot of authors offer editorial services such as developmental editing, editorial assessments, and even copy editing, which can be a great side hustle if you've got a keen editorial eye. But for me, my biggest side hustle by far is ghostwriting. In 2019, 38% of my annual income came from ghostwriting. Compare that to the 45% of my income that came from my books and 17% of my income which came from everything else combined. So today we're going to talk about 5 things you need to know if you want to become a ghostwriter. First off, let's talk about ghostwriting for publishing houses versus freelance ghostwriting. Right off the bat, I just want to say it's hard to get a ghostwriting gig with a major publishing house if you don't have a literary agent. When publishers hire a ghostwriter, it's often for celebrity books or a book by some public figure. Frequently, the way they find the ghostwriter is by reaching out to literary agents and inviting select authors to audition for the project. If you happen to have a connection to the author, the celebrity, the public figure of the project, then you might have a shot and you should work that connection. But otherwise, it's usually an audition process. Now let's talk about freelance ghostwriting. Looking at this chart of my 2019 income again, that 38% of my income that came from ghostwriting, those were all private clients. None of that money came from a traditional publishing house. There are plenty of people out there with the resources to hire a qualified, talented author to write their books. A few examples of private clients who have reached out to me for ghostwriting services include successful indie authors who are developing series and want to hire ghostwriters to write within the worlds they've created, screenwriters who have screenplays that they want to see adapted into novels, people who just have a great idea for a book but don't know how to write it themselves, and they want to hire somebody so that they can try taking it to literary agents and seeing if they can get a book deal. And yes, even celebrities and public figures sometimes reach out to private ghostwriters before they approach publishing houses with their novels. These clients are all out there waiting to pay you good money to write their books. So how do you find them? Well, the obvious answer is you can add a page to your website or create a website advertising your services. If you're pretty well established as an author in your field and your social media game is strong and you feel like you can get the word out there to all of your followers, this might be a good route for you. Personally, I have pretty much no social media game, and so I knew I was going to need a platform to offer my services. Websites like Fiverr and Upwork might be good places to start. Personally, I chose Reedsy. I'm not a Reedsy affiliate. I'm not trying to sell this to you as a product at all, but I've been using Reedsy for a while now, and it's been a great way for me to find ghostwriting clients. But however you choose to advertise your ghostwriting services, the next step is crucial. You need to craft a bio that focuses on your ghostwriting services. You need to describe your process as a ghostwriter so clients will know exactly how things are going to work. And maybe most importantly, you need to offer samples of your writing. When someone is considering whether or not to pay you thousands of dollars out of their own pocket in order to take this idea that they have and turn it into a full novel, they need to know that you can deliver. And I don't just mean that you can make the deadlines, although yes, you need to make deadlines, but to deliver a quality product. You also need to tell them about your process as a ghostwriter. Consider things like, do you offer revisions and how that would work? You need to be prepared to show clients a wide range of samples. Every genre you've written in, every age group you've written for, first person, third person, second person, past tense, present tense, different styles, whatever you've got. Take samples of everything. So when a client approaches you with a literary horror project or a steamy romance or a children's picture book, you're prepared with the closest writing sample you can get. Lastly, this is hard to do when you're starting out, but as soon as you get your first client, be sure to ask for reviews. Reviews from real people helps build trust and lets future clients know that you're someone who gets the job done. All right, let's talk about ghostwriting process. Some clients might come to you with just an idea, something they can describe in 2 sentences, and they want you to develop it into a book. Other clients might come to you with partially or even fully finished drafts that they know need a lot of work, and they want you to just take it apart and start over and write it from the ground up. I've had clients come to me with screenplays that they want adapted into novels, with lengthy description of events that have happened in their own lives that they want fictionalized, or just with documents that are dozens of pages long filled with world building and character sheets and all these ideas about the book, but no plot. Here's what I tell all of them. First, they're going to fill out a questionnaire. Ask them questions about how they envision the main character, any specific scenes they can see in their minds, regardless of whether or not they know how it would fit into a plot. Ask them to give you book recommendations. I want it to be like this book, or I want it to be like something from this author. So you kind of get a sense of the vibe they're going for. The more questions you can ask them and the more you encourage them to just ramble away, the more information you're going to have to put together a story. For clients who have been developing an idea for a while, they just don't know how to actually write the book, I ask them to send me all the materials they have, and I emphasize that I don't care if it's messy. Give me all of the world building documents and the character sheets and the half-finished drafts. It's totally fine. It's all material that I can work with. Next, I read through everything they send me and I take notes. And as a plot starts to emerge in my head, and it usually just starts out as just a basic Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 kind of thing, I jot those points down. Once I finish, I get in touch with them and I give them just a real rough synopsis of what I'm thinking the story will look like. Once they okay that, I start working on an outline. I know not everyone is a big outliner, but I do think it's a really important, if not necessary, part of ghostwriting. And here's why. It is so much easier to revise an outline than it is to revise a draft. Once I have that revised outline, I write the draft. This process usually takes between 2 to 3 months, depending on how many projects I have going on. As far as revisions go, my policy is when they read that final draft, I will do a few tweaks at no charge, but any big revisions are going to cost extra, because the chance to make those kind of big changes, that was back in the outlining phase. Now let's talk about what to charge. If you've ever tried Googling this, you've probably found that the answer is all over the place. Ghostwriters for novels charge anywhere from $5,000 to even over $100,000. Of course, a lot of it depends on your experience. And I don't just mean your ghostwriting experience, but your writing experience in general. How many books have you written? How many deadlines have you met? When I was first starting out as a freelance ghostwriter, I already had over a dozen novels under my belt, and several of them were IP projects, which stands for intellectual property, with traditional publishing houses. So even though I had never ghostwritten for private clients before, I did have a lot of writing experience. And when I set up my profile on Readsy, I included all of those books. After giving it a lot of thought, I decided to start out with an hourly rate of $65. Because I'd written so many books at that point, I knew my process pretty well. I knew how long it would take me to hit a deadline. So I decided to set my fee structure at 35 hours for every 10,000 words. I make sure to tell clients that that time doesn't just include actual typing of the draft, but also any research, reading through materials, and of course, outline development. After about a year, I decided to raise my rates, both because I had been pretty successful at this so far, and also because I had gotten a few new deals with one of my publishers, and I wanted to make sure that the time I was spending away from my own books on my ghostwriting was financially worth it for me. So now my fee is $75 per hour. Based on that structure, a 50,000 word book would take me 175 hours for a total rate of $13,125. I always split this into several payments, and so long as there's an upfront payment and a payment on the delivery date of the draft, I let the client choose how many payments they would like to split that into. For some clients, that rate is a bargain, and for others, it's totally unfeasible, and I completely get it. I would say probably 80 to 90% of the clients I offer to work with end up rejecting me because of my rate, and that's totally fine. Last June, I received a ghostwriting request. Just trying something, I hope it turns into something, I have no money. Honestly, I get that kind of request at least once a month. People out there think writers are just happy to write whole books for free. But here's the funny thing, 45 minutes later, I got another request. This client asked, would you be willing to provide a 5-page sample based upon the synopsis? If so, would $200 per page be sufficient? Yes, it was sufficient. Some people are willing to pay you nothing, and some people are willing to pay you $1,000 to write 5 pages. Whatever rate you charge, just make sure it's something you're comfortable with. If a client tries to bargain with you and they want you to write their book for $3,000, you might think, well, this might be what I have to do to kickstart my ghostwriting career. But here's the thing. Let's say this book is 60,000 words and you know it's gonna take you 3 months to write. You're looking at $1,000 per month, and that's before taxes. If you're gonna feel bitter and resentful the whole 3 months that you're working on that book because the payoff is so low compared to the time and effort that you're putting into it, then honestly, you're probably not going to deliver a great product to that client, and it's not going to be the career kickoff that you're hoping for. There are clients out there who are going to be totally willing to pay the rate that you think is fair. So be patient and keep writing. That's it for today. If you like this video, please like and subscribe down below. If you have any questions about ghostwriting, please hit me up in the comments, and I'll see you next time.